Welcome to my second video on Python LeetCode questions. In this video I'm going to do just two questions, a palindrome number on LeetCode and Fizz Buzz, because my previous video was a bit long. I've decided if a question is a hard question and it takes quite long to solve, I'm going to do one question per video. But if there's like simpler, easier questions, I'll do two videos. And in this one I'm doing palindrome and Fizz Buzz, but I found another website called CodeSignal and it has a similar palindrome question, and I thought I'll just do this one. It's exactly the same but slightly easier. I'll do this one first and then as a practice, and then we'll work on the LeetCode one, which has a slightly extra step. Not too much harder, but just a little extra step. So let's start with the CodeSignal one. And the question says, given the string, check if it is a palindrome over here. And you might be wondering what is palindrome. If you click on it, it will obviously take you to somewhere to explain what it is. But I just wrote it here for you. Palindrome is a word, phrase, or sequence that reads the same backwards as forwards. So let me just quickly give an example. Let's write the word atta. I don't know if it's an actual word, but if you look at this from left to right or forward to the end, atta, and then right to left is still atta. So it reads the same from left to right and right to left. So this will be considered a palindrome. Okay, so in the examples you can see as well. For example, input string equals AABAA. The output should be solution input string equals true. So it should be true because this is a palindrome. If you read it from left to right, it will be exactly the same as right to left. So how do we solve this? So we just want to see is if it's the same, if the word or the input string. So they've given the input string. If the input string reads the same in reverse, then it is a palindrome. So we just have to write something to make the input string a reverse. So this is how we do it. If input string, so this is the input string we get, so the word or whatever we're going to get, a phrase or sequence, if it is identical to it being reverse, so this will be the reverse of it, and and to reverse something, you will just use the slice method and then put -1 here. So if you don't know the slice in Python, it will be like the start, stop, and then and then the steps basically. So where you start, where you stop, and how many steps. So if you have like an array 1 2 3 4 5 6, you start at 1, and how many steps do you want to go. However, if you write it like I did, no input for the start and the stop, it will just give you the default. But then if you put the -1 here, it will start from the end basically. It will reverse the string. So this is essentially the input string written like this is the reverse of this. So if these two are identical, so input string is identical to the reverse of input string, we just have to write return true, and then obviously else return false. Let's see if this works. Run the test, and yeah, it works. So if you just go to, so this is the first example, AABAA, we've already seen that, and it's true. Let's just click on a random one. Number 7, AAABAAA. There's 4 A's at the end, 3 A's at the front. We can already see that this is not a palindrome. And if you click here, return value, it's going to say false. Yeah, it was false. So we did the right thing. And if you wanted to not write like this, it's a simpler way. So we just simply, if we write return input string equals, if it's identical, if you return it and these two are identical, it's going to return true, otherwise false. So if we just run again, let's see if this works. Yep, and this works as well. So this is a lot simpler way of writing the same thing. Now if we go into the LeetCode one, it's slightly different. I'll explain how. Given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome, and false, otherwise. It tells you an integer is a palindrome when it reads the same forwards and backwards. So it's the same thing. And false otherwise. So in example, x equals 121, output is true, and the explanation is 121 reads as 121 from the left to the right, and from right to left it's exactly the same. Example 2 is false because -121, it will read -121 from left to right, but 121 with a negative sign at the end from right to left. And clearly this is not a palindrome. So how do we solve this? As I said before, there's an extra step to the LeetCode one, and that extra step is simply turning this into a string. You can't inverse an integer. This is an integer, so you can't so x is an integer, we're working with x, all you have to do is turn x into a string. So same as before, we're just doing the same thing but working with the string of x. So turning into a string. So we write our if statement again. If the string of x is identical to the string of x reversed, so it will be like this. We just do return true, and then else return false. Let's see if this works on this. I don't know what this is. Yep, and it's all accepted, and then you just submit it. So these are true, 1, 2, 1, case 2, this is false, and our code says false, and case 3, 10, it's false or false, and our code gives us false. Okay, so next question. 412 Fizz Buzz on LeetCode. And it says, given an integer n, return a string array answer one index where answer I equals Fizz Buzz if I is divisible by 3 and 5, answer I equals Fizz if it's divisible by 3, and it's Buzz if it's divisible by 5, and you just return the action, and it says answer I equals I, so you just return the actual number or whatever it is if none of the above conditions are true. So if we look at an example, n equals 3, so up to 3, including 3, we look at all the numbers. So we look at 1. 1 is not divisible by 3 or 5, so we're gonna return the number 1, as said at the bottom condition here. 2 is also not divisible by 3 or 5, so we're gonna use this condition and return 2. And then, but 3 is divisible by 3, so it satisfies this condition here. So we have to put Fizz here. And example 2, n equals 5, 1, 2, 3, as we spoke above. 4 is not divisible by 3 or 5, and 5 is divisible by just 5. So this one is just 5, and it will return Buzz. And if a number, for example 15, 3 goes into 15 and 5 goes into 15. If a number is divisible by both, so 3 and 5, it will satisfy this first condition, and you will have to return Fizz Buzz. Okay, so how do we do this? To start off with, all we have to do is so create like a empty list where we're gonna add in all the numbers. So let's just write the output equals, and we just create an empty list. Oh, not like this. So empty list, and then just create we're just going to create a for loop to go through all the numbers. So let's say, so n is an integer, so if n is like 10, we need to go through, loop through 1 all the way up to 10, including 10. So for, let's just say num, for a number in the range, so the Python's range function, 1 to, it's going to be n plus 1. This way we include the last one as well, the n as well. For this, so now we wrote the for loop, we're going to write our conditions. So we have all these conditions, we just have to basically rewrite those in Python. So so the first one, it says if it's divisible by 3 and 5, we're going to return Fizz Buzz. So how do we write this? If the number we choose in this range, if the number, and in my previous video I showed how to see if something is divisible by another number. So if it's divisible by 3, we're just going to do this % sign and double equals 0. So the modular function, and if the remainder is 0, that means if number modular is supposed to be like this, 3 is so if it's divided by 3 and the remainder is 0, then obviously it's divisible by 3. However, we have another condition here, 5 as well, so we have to write and. So it has to be number 3 and 5. So num 5 is 0. So if it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, we're just going to do answer.append, and then we have to write this Fizz Buzz. So we're gonna add in the Fizz Buzz. So Fizz, is that how you write it? Buzz, yeah, Fizz Buzz. And dot append, I'll quickly show what it is. So if we have like an array 1, 2, 3, 4, so we just say n equals. So we just write, or just array. Let me make it simpler. Array equals. So this is our array, and if I do array, oops, dot append, and I want to add another number to it. Let's just write 3. Let's see what it gives us. Let's do a new CodeSignal. So I did this. If I just write, a simpler way to do is print. So print array dot append 3. Let's see what it gives us. What have I done? I don't think you can print it off like that. Let me do it in a different way. So my bad. I'm supposed to just do print array. Let's see how it works. Yeah, you can't just do array dot print array dot append. You have to do it and then print it. So print array 1 2 3 4. This is our original array, and then append is like adding an extra thing. So whatever you classify in here, it will add it on, and it added it on to the end. Append 3. So that's how the append works. And on this Fizz Buzz, if you do answer dot append, you're going to add this Fizz Buzz. So if that number in that position and that index is divisible by 3 and 5, you're going to append it with Fizz Buzz. So that's going to be it. Okay, so that's the first condition done. And then we're just going to do elif or else if. The second condition says return Fizz if it's divisible by 3. Elif num is 3 0. If it's divisible by 3, now we're going to append. What am I doing? Answer. The output. My bad. So output is our strings. That's where we're appending it to. So output dot append. Output dot append, and with this condition it says Fizz. So if it's divisible by 3, the condition wants us to append it by Fizz. And so whatever number we have in that index, if it is divisible by just 3, not 5, it will append Fizz in there. We'll write Fizz in there. Okay, and then finally, no, there's 2 more. So we have, if it's divisible by 5, we have to obviously append buzz. Elif 5 0. So I'm just going to do this a bit faster. Output append, and now we have to append buzz. Okay, that's that condition. And then finally, obviously with the if statements, your final one, you don't do if or elif, you just do else. And the final condition is if it doesn't satisfy any of the above, we're just going to do output.append, output.append, and then we're just going to do, one second, just my headset came off, output.append, and here it says I as a string, so we have to turn it into a string. So we're just going to do string of number, string of the number, and then all we have to do is finally return output. Let's see what it gives us. Why is it saying login? Let's log in. There we go, and run. Let's run this. Hopefully no mistakes, and it's accepted. Case 1, case 2, and case 3. So, well, I said 15, and 15 came up, and obviously, let's see the output. It's quite long to read, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Earlier I mentioned if it's 15 divisible by 3 and 5, obviously because 15 is divisible by 3 and 5, we put Fizz Buzz there. And that's it for today's video. I'll be doing more of these in the future. Like I said, I might be doing single questions if they're harder questions, or just like this, working on 1 or 2 questions if it's fairly quicker, and then maybe obviously doing a few extra bits here to explain certain things, certain code I'm doing, like the append function here, and you know, any harder things I do, like earlier I did just in LeetCode, so the slicing. Maybe you want to look more into slicing in Python. Yeah, so thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.